Welcome back. Well, it's time to boil down all the action to the individual stocks that should be on your radar this morning. There's a long list out there, and we have our team standing by with the CNBC-TV18 list of top stocks to watch. Guys, good morning and happy Monday to all of you. Rima, let me start with you first. Focus on IT stocks this morning. What's the latest?
Well, the latest is the expectation of a Fed rate cut. Remember that Indian IT stocks like Nasdaq tend to react positively to any cut in the US interest rates. In fact, even if you see the commentary from the corporates over the last couple of quarters, when they talk about the decline in discretionary spending, the tough macro, they have alluded to high inflation and high interest rates in the US. So now that that tide is hopefully turning, there will be a sentiment rub-off on the Indian IT stocks. So Salil Parekh, for instance, just to give you an example, in the conference call which happened just in July, said the macro environment, at least in Western markets with high interest rates, has curtailed most companies from spending on big programs on digital transformation. Even C. Vijay Kumar, CVK of HCL Tech, has said, when asked about discretionary spending coming back, in July he said, I think even now there is some amount of discretionary spend happening, but for customers to become a little more liberal in terms of spending, I think it's largely driven by economic pressures, whether it's interest rates or inflation. So high interest rates has been a factor in impacting the macros in the US. So that will be a positive when that reverses. The Indian IT stocks ended down 1% on Friday, but since June, when the rally began, the index, Nifty IT index, is up 27%. Back to you.
Okay, all right. Rima, thanks a lot for that. Well, let's focus on one of the pharma counters, then that will be in focus. Zydus Life. Ekta, morning.
Morning. Well, important news which has come in for Zydus, and it was expected, where Teva has received US FDA approval for Asacol HD generic, which is basically a drug used for ulcerative colitis. Remember that this drug has been very important for Zydus because it accounted for 3 to 4% of Zydus's revenue, 8 to 10% of their EBITDA in FY24. And the assumption is that the product contribution will drop to less than 1% of revenue and less than 3% of EBITDA in FY26 on account of competition for Asacol HD. Now, the sharp decline, according to Jefferies, in earnings from new entrants in Asacol HD declines anyway because Zydus has launched a particular drug which is used for overactive bladders, which is Mirabegron generic, as well as increasing contribution from Revlimid generic, should probably just about compensate the competition that we are seeing in Asacol HD. And this is despite it even coming earlier than what it was anticipated to be. Separately, Zydus is buying 50% in Sterling Biotech for 550 crores. This is one of the leading producers of pharma gelatin. FY24 revenue was 555 odd crores. Sterling Biotech was acquired by PEs under NCLT. Post-acquisition, it's going to become a joint venture company for Zydus.
All right. Ekta, thank you very much for that. Well, we also have Jio Finance, which should be in focus. Abhishek is here to tell us why. Abhishek, morning.
Morning, Prashant. So, JioFin has got, a finance ministry approval for taking up their FDI stake in the company to up to 49%. Currently, FIs own about 17.55% stake as per the exchange's notification that we have. Company had sought this approval from shareholders as well to enable foreign investment of up to 49% in the company in May of 2024. So, stock is also in focus ahead of the AGM that is on 29th of August 2024. Back to you.
Okay, all right, got it. Abhishek, thanks very much. So Jio Finance in focus as well. Back to Ekta. Ekta, we have numbers from Akums Drugs. How do they look?
Well, yes, operationally good. So that's why I expect the stock to be in the green. Revenue was up around 5% year on year. EBITDA 128 crores versus a loss of 125 crores year on year. Margins 12.6%. Profit 60 crores versus loss of 188 crores. Q on Q as well, there was an improvement in terms of margins, 12.6 versus 0.3%, and a turnaround on the bottom line. The CDMO margins, which is bulk of their business, improved to 14.4 versus 13% year on year, and branded formulations 10.3 versus 4% year on year. So expect the stock to be in the green, but this kind of performance should be sustainable for the company going forward.
Okay, Ekta, thanks for that. Well, let's wind this down then with some stocks in the news. Pamakshi joins us to help us out with that. Pamakshi?
Well, good morning, Nigel. Let me first start off with DCW Limited. The company is expected to open higher today, and that is because the FinMin has imposed definitive anti-dumping duty on CPVC imports from China and Korea. The earlier anti-dumping duty was imposed back in March 2020 and was set to expire yesterday, that is on August 25th. With this notification now coming in, this duty will be valid for another 5 years. But why does this bode well for DCW? Because the company had filed a petition seeking sunset review investigation on CPVC imports from China and South Korea. This essentially protects the business from cheap imports from these two countries, and business will continue as usual for DCW. So overall, going with the green for this counter. The next stock on my radar is KEC. Some order wins coming in for the company. They've secured new orders worth 1,079 crores in transmission and distribution and cable businesses. The company said that significant orders across Saudi Arabia, Oman as well as UAE have substantially expanded the company's international T&D order book in the Middle East. And with these orders, the year-to-date order intake has now surpassed 8,700 crores, reflecting a growth of almost 60% on a YOY basis. And lastly, let's also watch out for ONGC. The stock is also expected to open higher, and that is because the company has brought on stream its 5th of the 13 oil wells in the Krishna Godavari basin.
Okay, got it, Vamakshi. Thanks very much for that. Guys, just mentioning, I mean, on the CPVC news, I was looking at the reaction on the pipe makers, because for them it's a raw material that they consume. So let's see how pricing plays out. Because if there is an anti-dumping duty, which means that now domestic prices are not that pressured by the imports coming in, is pricing going to increase for them? So that's why Astral, Prince Pipes, a lot of these stocks were under pressure. Epigral has a large facility as well. That was also down. So just mentioning that aside of DCW, a lot of these other sort of side stocks, part of that CPVC chain, we'll keep an eye out on them as well.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we'll try to speak with some companies as well in that space as we go along. But some block deals, right? I mean, that's essentially been a constant in these markets. Vivek is here to summarize. Vivek, morning.
Well, that's right. Quite a few block deals that happened in trade on Friday. Looking at the list of buyers and sellers that were declared post-market hours. First on the list, Ambuja Cements. Like we had mentioned, the promoter holder in investment sold close to 2.84% stake in the company at 625 rupees a share. Amongst the list of buyers, one of the largest chunks was picked by GQG, and GQG partners picked up close to 0.7% stake, almost 2.6 crore shares. List of buyers otherwise look quite strong. NPS Trust, SBI Life, Mirai Mutual Fund, Morgan Stanley, they all picked up significant chunk as well. The next stock on the radar, Nykaa, again, something that we had flagged off earlier. Harinder Pal Singh and Associates, a pre-IPO investor, sold close to 1.4% stake out of the total 6.5% stake that they held at the end of Q1. Amongst the list of buyers, Goldman Sachs, Kotak Mahindra Mutual Fund, SBI Mutual Fund. Remember, this particular deal happened in the block deal window itself, and the stock rallied after that. And lastly, another large block deal that happened in the middle of the day was Tata Technology. Alpha TC Holdings, sold close to 2.4% stake in the company at the end of Q1. This particular entity held close to 4.34% stake. Going with the red on this particular name, given the fact that we are unaware of what exactly they plan to do with the remainder of the stake, the list of buyers not yet disclosed, assuming that the buying was less than 1%.
All right, got it. Thanks very much, Vivek, for all the recap of the block deal action that we've seen. Let's quickly look at the list for stocks to watch today. The ones that have positive news flow around them are IT stocks, Jio Financial Services, Akums Drugs, DCW, KEC International, ONGC, Ambuja Cements, and Nykaa. The ones that have negative news flow around them are Zydus Lifesciences and Tata Tech. All right, with that, let's head across to Manisha Gupta, get a roundup of all the commodity market action as we come out of the weekend. Manisha, so it seems the rate cut indeed is coming in September. Tell us what's the read-through for commodities?
Oh, well, absolutely positive in that sense, because we've seen the dollar index also trade around those 13-month lows, and that clearly has been supportive. So on the Asian markets right now, we're trading in the positive across commodities. There are concerns coming in from the Middle East. There are supply risks and escalating fears of a broader conflict in the Middle East with what is happening between Israel and Hamas, and now also Israel and Hezbollah, and that has added premium to prices also. So we have seen the crude oil prices come off its 8-month lows. It gained 2% on Friday. It's trading in the positive in Monday as well. Good gains is what we have seen in metals also. So you have gold prices back above $2,500 an ounce. Silver prices gained 2.5% on Friday, yet again trading in the positive right now. And you have the base metal prices trading firm as well. The copper prices have put in 2 weeks of gains now. There is bargain buying on the lower levels and also improving sentiment from China. All of these factors supporting the industrial commodities also in Asia.
Okay, all right. Manisha, thank you very much for that. So that's commodities in focus. We'll take a quick commercial break here. Stay with us. We are back. Prakash Devan will join in to talk about some of these individual names which our research team put out. What should you be doing with them and more? That's coming up in just a bit.